Welcome back, and I hope you had an opportunity to set up your editor and you should be ready to start coding. So open up that editor and create a blank file called index.html, and now we're going to go through setting up a basic HTML template, and this can be used to create any number of HTML files. So if you're familiar with HTML, we know that we start with doc type, and we're going to specify the doc type to be HTML. And then next, we need to set up our HTML opening and closing. And then next, let's set up head. And within head, usually I like to add in a title. So we're going to give it a title of memory game, because that is what we're going to be creating within this course. Next, we're not going to worry about too much of the contents, the meta information, just setting up our basic HTML template. So just follow along and create that basic HTML template, and then we're ready to go to start adding in some customized code into it. So this is it, and you should be ready to go at this point in order to create your HTML template and ready to go to start adding in some code. So the next thing that I want to do, so once we've set up our basic HTML template, so this is always our starting point whenever we're creating anything, any type of web applications or websites, we need our starting point. So this is our starting point. So next, I usually like to create a div, and I usually give it an ID of wrapper. So this is essentially my entire area where I'm going to be adding in different HTML, and that's going to be reflected all within this one main wrapper area. This gives me control over the overall width of my application and so on. So I wrap everything within a div, and that gives me full control over what output I'm placing. The next thing that I want to do is I want to add another div, and I'm going to be assigning them IDs for now. So this is also so we can identify them. So we need an area for a score. We also need an area for a message. So I'm going to set up that as well. So I'm going to create another div here. I'm going to call this one message, and we'll close that one off. And then lastly, we need a main container for our game board or any other type of access that we're going to have, or output that we're going to have within our application. So let's give this one an ID of game board. And then as we need more content added in, we can always add in the rest of the structure of this application. But mainly I want this application to be JavaScript driven. So I don't want to actually have too many other options other than just these basic default HTML elements in order to build out our gameplay area. And then the next thing that I want to do is I want to add in my script tags so that I'm ready to go for the next lesson for JavaScript. And also I'm going to need some styling. And for now, usually the way I like to do it is I like to do it, especially for these small applications, to keep everything on one page and then split that up after to a CSS page and also after to a JS file, and then just simply link to it. Because it's going to save me the trouble of flipping through all the different files, because we are going to need to interact with some of the content from the body, and this is why it's always good to have it on one file when you're building it out, especially when you're not expecting a lot of content and a lot of scripting or styling, and then you could simply see that output there, and then afterwards, before we wrap up the project, then that's where we're going to split out those files. So what I want you to do now is to open up your editor, go ahead, create your HTML basic template, and then also set it up in order to structure your gameplay area. And in the next lesson, we're going to jump into JavaScript, and I'm going to show you how we can start thinking out and conceptualizing our gameplay. So that's coming up in the next lesson.